All right.
Okay.
Should we
Let's
get this show on the road?
I'll just do a fade in. We don't need an intro. That's the intro.
Welcome to the Troublesome Terps Christmas Aganza, which is as organised as we are right now.
Fair enough.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Welcome to the
This is the
Tipsy
holiday spirit we all have here.
I am teetotal.
Yeah. Said the guy with the beer in the glass.
You can't see it, but we can.
But we can.
So there's a running joke that whenever I go to an interpreting conference, I tell people I'm a Scotsman and I'm teetotal, and people say to me, "Do you exist?"
Well, I think you do. I think we can all confirm that you do exist.
I heard the other day that Adele is now a teetotaler, which is confusing because then 2 weeks later I saw her on a YouTube video discussing her new album about the song I Drink Wine, drinking lots of wine.
You can get alcohol-free wine.
So I must negotiate, I must investigate this further.
I saw a quote from Hemingway today that said, "The only regret I have in life is that I didn't drink more wine."
Oh, yeah.
Sounds very
I also
Hemingway.
got this incredible, I always have this handy right by my laptop, as you can see. It's a quote by Lily Bollinger. "I drink champagne when I'm happy and when I'm sad. Sometimes I drink it when I'm alone. When I have company, I consider it obligatory. I trifle with it when I'm not hungry and drink it when I am. Otherwise, I never touch it, unless I'm thirsty."
I love it.
I love this.
These are all great quotes to go on like gravestones, I think. I would love the wine.
For
one
sure.
online.
And today's health advice is brought to you by the Troublesome Terps.
Yeah.
Alex G, are you wearing a jumper, like a hoodie that says interpreter?
Oh, yeah. Wait, I got this like
This
forever
is
ago.
mandatory clothes for every recording. It says interpreter because badass miracle worker is not an official job title.
Nice, you nerd.
But also it fits better on the business
Says the
card.
chick with the poofy hat that says
Hey,
lovely.
I'm very hipster
Hey, but
over
it
here.
is actually lovely.
You're nerdy.
Yeah,
Yes.
you are. You look a little bit like Where's Waldo?
Yeah, I
like,
have actually
in a good way.
Like
a
cool.
striped T-shirt, just like with the red and white here, and then with my glasses, I look exactly like Waldo.
That is super cool.
Yeah.
This is Troublesome Terps Mystery Theatre, now on your radio.
Can we fade in the X-Files sound? The do-do-do-do-do-do. Do-do-do-do-do-do.
And we'll just do the whole show in a creaky radio voice.
Yes. I love it.
So, back in January 2021,
This is the year in review episode, in case you didn't notice.
in case you hadn't realised, back in January, I have lost my place. We had the Elf on the Shelf, which is weird because that should have been a Christmas episode, with being Elf on the Shelf.
It was the belated Christmas episode for the year before, maybe. Because
a
it was
gift that
probably
kept on
recorded
shipping.
in mid-December or something like that.
Yes.
Or maybe not. Who knows? What is time anyway?
Yeah, I feel like January 2021. When was that even? 5 years ago? Who knows?
And it was the three. It was Alex, and me talking about
The Three
English as a
Stooges.
lingua franca. The Three Stooges. See,
Pretty much.
See, I think we got Sarah to help us be more normal.
That didn't
Did we
work.
though?
Yeah, I'm not sure. No one has ever said such insulting things to me, Jonathan.
Fake feeling that I got insulted there without being aware.
No.
But
No.
we had an incredible breadth of guests this year, but we started off the year with a show that was just the three Troublesome Terps. Loud? No, that doesn't even work. Alex, and me. And did we not come to the conclusion that English as a lingua franca wasn't as big a deal as it's made out to be? And actually, certainly I've seen, it seems like there's more interpreting assignments around nowadays than there used to be. I don't know if there's the same volume of interpreting in terms of hours, but certainly any fears that we would be replaced by everyone speaking Brussels English or Globish seem to have been misplaced.
Yeah,
I also read an
remembered-
article.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Alex.
No, Alex, you go ahead.
Oh, I'll cut this out. You go ahead.
So read this article yesterday saying that English is even going away as the global e-commerce language because now it's all about localized and regionalized content. So then in Europe, it's going to be like all the individual country languages that are going to be more important. And yeah, so who knows? But then also like it didn't really impact anything like all this time. And we've talked about English as a lingua franca a lot, even since the beginning of the podcast. And I don't really feel like anything has changed.
Well,
neither one way or nor the other.
Our research at NIMSY shows, we looked into the buying behaviors of online consumers, that 9 out of 10 global users will ignore your product or service if it's not in their native language.
See, there you go.
That's a big figure.
But does that influence our work? You know, like I agree to these trends, and it totally tracks with the article that I read yesterday. I mean, not that the article supersedes what you're doing because it's actual research, but I feel like whether I see Amazon in German or in English, does that really influence the interpreting market too much?
Well, I think directly I would say no, but I think it indicates the same trend, or like a proof of, the English as a lingua franca is, yeah, we all sort of speak English, but do we really speak English well enough? It indicates the same trend. Or if we're interpreting I've heard from a lot of people also, if you're at a conference and there's no interpreting, well, then you don't really allow for a proper debate, right? It's usually the English native speakers then that are leading the debate because they feel confident, they understand everything, and they also have the ability to express themselves properly in their language. Whereas the other ones in the audience, they might understand what's going on, but they might not be as confident in expressing themselves, or, don't express themselves well. So then you end up with a very one-sided debate. And so I think, and what we've seen as well, especially in the last year, or years now, I have to say, almost since the pandemic, is that there's so many more requests for interpreting from also clients who never used interpreting services before, and that have suddenly seen the value and also the need for interpreting services, which I found quite interesting.
I think also we have kidded ourselves for so long that interpreting is always about the fact of people needing it. Going back to the research of a certain Jonathan Downey 2016 PhD thesis, one of the things I found in my PhD is that there's such a thing as symbolic interpreting, where interpreting exists because of politics or because it's symbolically nice. And certainly I've done interpreting jobs in the not so recent past where it was obvious the interpreting wasn't really needed for language barriers. It was needed because that was the astute thing to have, or because the regulations said such and such a meeting will be interpreted. And so I think, in as much as there's such a thing as symbolic interpreting, and I think anyone who's done certainly conference interpreting knows that there's such a thing as symbolic interpreting, where we're basically nice suits in a booth, or nowadays nice pajamas at home. For as long as that exists, English as a lingua franca isn't an issue. And so I think we're having to gain a better understanding of the fact that interpreting isn't there for the same reason at every assignment. Some assignments it's there because there's an actual language need. Sometimes it's there because it's politically astute. Sometimes it's there because of something else.
You said that until that's the way, it's not an issue that English is a lingua franca. Well, my question to you, Jonathan, is why would it even be an issue if it was a lingua franca?
Well, so my point is that if symbolic interpreting didn't exist, then it would be easier to argue that English as a lingua franca is a threat to interpreting. Because if interpreting is all about language barriers and everyone speaks lingua franca English, on some level there is no language barrier. But if interpreting is there sometimes because of language barriers and sometimes because it looks nice or regulation X says it has to be there, it doesn't matter if everyone speaks English. In fact, you might be in a meeting where everyone does speak English and they're still interpreting. It's certainly not unknown in the literature and not unknown in practice. And so I think we've often seen, I'm writing a paper at the moment where we've often seen interpreting as always about language access. And the truth is that's not always true.
That's true. But at the same time, definitely from what I've come across, there's been maybe that's one trend. And on the other hand, there's a trend from the less traditional clients, the ones that haven't used it before, who are realizing that language access is important. And especially also accessibility and inclusivity as well. Inclusivity, is that a word? Inclusiveness?
Inclusion.
inclusion is nice. I like that one. Okay. Yeah. So either way, that see, I could use an interpreter right now.
But I've also found what you were just saying, I've also found that during the pandemic, because all the teams were broken up and everybody was working in the home office, there were a lot more digital town halls or all hands meetings or whatever they are called. And we actually got brought on to a lot of those because the teams were international, because now they could be, because you can hire people in Spain, you can hire people in wherever. And then obviously, in my case, they were mostly German companies. They held the meeting in German, and then we interpreted it into English. Or they held the meeting in English to make sure that everybody heard the CEO speak, and then we interpreted it into German for the German audience. So I feel like it is about, for me, what I saw in the pandemic so far was a lot about the accessibility. And not necessarily accessibility in the sense that people don't know what's going on, because obviously they work at the company, but I think it's just to make them feel included. So inclusion also. Yeah.
Yeah, I think kind of the two don't negate each other. I think you have both. And I think in terms of English as a lingua franca, I think knowing that symbolic interpreting exists is enough to tell us that English as a lingua franca is not going to wipe out interpreting. But on the other hand, I think there's a realization probably that lingua franca English isn't always enough for a meeting to work. I like what you said, Sarah, about, if it's all in English, you're actually reducing the chance for people to have an input. And I think that is a big deal. I talked to an enterprise client, not our client, but someone who buys interpreting services recently. They told me they used to always have like a few, like 5 or 6 on-site events, with their company in the different locations across the globe. But when the pandemic hit, that wasn't possible. So then they tried RSI for the first time and decided to just make it one big online event. And of course, it cost some money to do the RSI, but in the end they said it was really worth it for them because they just did one event instead of 5. And then they got a lot more participation from some of the different regions in the world than ever before, because for the on-site events they had no interpreting. And to them, they could really see the benefits. There's more people signed up than ever before, and there was a lot more actual engagement and debate happening because of interpreting. So they were overwhelmed with that, like positively overwhelmed. They said then they're going to keep it up even post-pandemic, of course, also to have some on-site events, but for the really large ones to do it virtually so that everyone can join and debate together.
Yeah, I had a similar thing as well. Yeah.
I was going to say it makes a big difference, and I know that interpreters have spent the last 2 years arguing over RSI standards, and that's an important debate. But the reality is, actually, RSI has been a godsend not just for interpreters, but also for the sector itself, in that, as the RSI people told us would happen, it has opened up new events. And so I think where we do need to be careful of standards and noise and stuff, we also need to realise that there's a whole new market for interpreting that didn't exist 2 years ago. And it would be silly to be grumping when suddenly there's more interpreting than there ever was before.
Yeah, but, when you just said, like, the RSI people told us, let's take that with a grain of salt, because they told us, there's going to be so many jobs and you're going to be able to do all of those things. And while that's true, it's not always the best interpreting work, and B, they've not only made more jobs happen, they've also taken old jobs that I had previously and made them a lot shittier. So it's not all, gold that glitters. But I just wanted to say one thing before we move on to maybe the next episode. I don't know if anybody else wanted to say anything, but I just saw this video the other day about the new German foreign minister and how she got shamed for her English. And I listened to the video and it sounded perfectly acceptable. Like, it wasn't, if she was my interpreter, I wouldn't love it. But, for somebody speaking English, it was perfectly understandable. She might have had a German accent, but then guess what? So she's German. So I think when it comes to English as a lingua franca, what we should also do is stop language shaming or stop accent shaming. Because I feel like especially in Germany, we're really bad at this. But also I feel like in Europe in general, there's sort of like this accent thing. I don't really know what to call it. It's weird. So let's stop that.
I completely agree. I think sometimes because, in my experience as a German also, one of the 3 Germans on this podcast, and, you often get, I think the world loves to make fun of our accent and says that our language sounds fucking ugly, which I disagree with. But, and I think we Germans have a tendency to like chime into that and go like, yeah, and then we're trying to have like the best possible accent in English at least, to not get shamed more for our ugly German accent, And yeah, I also think not just for the Germans now, but like for any language, that's stop accent shaming people. Accents are wonderful, they tell you where someone comes from and like so much about their culture in their own language and in another language. And also when someone has an accent, it shows you that they're very brave.
Exactly, because they speak a foreign language. What about you? Do you speak a foreign language?
Do you?
So
probably most people who listen to this do because they are interpreters, but yeah.
Well, yeah, yes, that is a fair point.
Oh, guys, I didn't care what you're on about.
Yeah, and actually on that note of accents in English as a lingua franca, we just kept it moving and went to the UK. So Jonathan, why don't you just take it from there?
Sweet transition.
Good segue, right?
Segue. That was like segue. Do you know, we didn't have an award this year for Segue of the Year, possibly because it ran out of battery. But if you want to nominate your Troublesome Terps Segue of the Year, feel free. If you have that depth of knowledge of the whole year's worth of episodes, fantastic. So the UK special, I thought we had Paul Appleyard and we had Kirsty Heimel-Morgan on, and I think it was really good because the UK, apart from London, often isn't a traditional interpreting market. It can be a little bit of the Wild West at times, and there's a lot of differences, but it was good to have an episode on the UK to help people understand. Actually, the UK probably isn't even one market. And actually, can I say something a bit crazy that Sarah might disagree with? I think the growth of remote interpreting is basically flattening out the idea of interpreting markets, geographically anyway. So,
explain yourself.
In terms of remote
Explain yourself.
For example, in terms of remote interpreting, my remote interpreting projects have all been within quote unquote the North America market.
Mm-hmm.
It's just how it's happened. Whereas you get something like COP26 in Glasgow, where I happen to know that a fair proportion of the interpreters weren't from the UK. Some were, some weren't. And so I think because it's not the ideal where, you can log on and get an interpreting assignment whenever you want, but remote interpreting has flattened this idea of geographies out. I think it was Alex G on an earlier episode talked about, remote interpreting and professional domiciles and their ongoing relevance. And I think while we're beginning to see in some places return to in-person, Omicron dependent, I think we have to realise that interpreting is not what it was 3-4 years ago, and we might need new ways of thinking about the idea of something like a professional domicile or a market. I think for things like public service interpreting, yes, there are going to be national markets forever. For business and conference interpreting, yeah, it's debatable.
Why would you think that I disagree with that? I definitely 100% agree with that. And I think, and this is probably also controversial, I sometimes don't understand why we need to have the domicile thing in interpreting, because like, do other professions have this? Do translators have this? I don't think so. Like, why? What is the problem?
But then also the translators don't work on site.
I know. And I know it's the travel cost and all these things as well.
Exactly,
I get that, but still, there can be other ways to work it out, no?
I mean, there are other ways. There were other ways before Corona, right? Like there were different pricing models. There were other ways of doing it. So that's not the only way of doing it. But I think it just kind of created a place where not everybody could just go all willy-nilly and kind of dabble in all the individual markets in the country. So it just kind of like, no, Sarah? So like the idea was, right, if I live in Munich, I can't just work in Berlin and basically undercut the Berlin people because my domicile is in Munich. So according to the actual rules, I would have to charge travel from Munich to Berlin, which I get, which I also find fair, that if I want to work in Berlin, which is not my market, then I should not work as a local and basically take a pay cut to pay for my own accommodation and pay for my own travel. That makes a lot of sense to me, because then what's the point of actually being a local?
I think, though, to be honest, within a national thing, within a country like Germany, I don't know how much price differentiation you'll get between cities. I can see it more when you had the UK, which historically has underpaid conference interpreters, and UK interpreters saying, we'll go and work in France and we'll charge UK rates. That I can see the domicile thing. But I think the reality is I can see interpreting going towards, and it's the whole specialization settings thing as well. I can see interpreting going towards interpreters work with specific clients model. And in that case, the domicile is irrelevant because it's not like you're competing with a local. The client is working with you, and that's it.
Yeah, but again, nothing's changed in that regard. That's always been the case. Like, if the client brings me to Berlin and pays for my stuff, that was never an issue ever before.
Yeah, but in your examples, yeah, exactly. I was going to say either technically, if you're in Berlin, in Munich, and you want to work in Berlin, then technically you have to charge more because of the travel and accommodation, right?
Right.
But if you don't do that, then the only one who's losing out is you. You're not undercutting people. You're just working in the same.
No, you are undercutting people in the sense that I'm taking a pay cut in order to pay for my accommodation and my travel.
Yeah, so you get paid
effectively
less
lowering my rate.
Yeah.
So exactly. So I'm basically kind of, ruining the market in that sense because the client is still getting me without having to pay the premium of actually shipping me to the location.
Yeah, but in the end,
when they could be booking people for the same price that they could be booking me for in Berlin.
Sure, but I mean, you get paid the same rate as the ones in Berlin. Is just what you do with it after, right? Like for the client, they don't know. It's the same rate. You're not lowering the rate.
It's the same rate. I'm not lowering the rate, but then if the client wants me from Munich to Berlin, the client should be paying more because it costs more for me to get to Berlin and work.
Yeah, but in my opinion, that's your problem and not the client's or the other interpreter's problem because the client pays the same amount to you or the person in Berlin,
Yes.
Yeah. Exactly.
But if they want me and I don't live in Berlin, they need to pay more. So it is the client's problem.
Yeah, but if you don't charge them for travel, it's your choice that you pay that yourself.
And that's the point about domicile, right? So if you don't work in your domicile, you should be charging for the travel. That's the whole point.
I think that should be up to you as a freelancer. That's my point as well.
It is up to you. Like,
that's
it's totally up to
you.
It's just, It is totally up to everyone. But it's just the discussion about the domicile is that you should be charging it to make it fair for everybody else.
Yeah, but I don't see how it's unfair in my opinion. It's still, if I want to, in the end, get less out of it, because, I'm not lowering the actual rate for the interpreting assignment. What I'm deciding to do is to not get the pay for the travel and the accommodation, and then that's your problem, but you're not changing the rate for hour or day or whatever in the market,
Yeah, it's true, but then the client still gets more out of the euros they spend, basically.
Not really.
So
they just have a wider pool of interpreters to work with. That's all it is. They don't get more out of it.
They do get more out of it, though.
No, they just have more interpreters to work with.
So,
I feel like it's so funny how Jonathan just has, like, Jonathan, just speak. Don't even try to just go.
I was going to say, can I throw an iron into the fire here? Is that as a consultant interpreter, one of my biggest annoyances is when I ask interpreters for a price, and I now state in my emails, can I get the total price? Because most clients I've come across don't really care that you're paying X for travel and X for this. It's just, how much do we have to pay in the final invoice? And the number of interpreters that I write to as a consultant and say, I need the total price. And so they send me, well, it's this per day, it's this per DM, it's this per... No, it's like, no, I don't care how you arrived at the price. Give me a figure. And I think for me, certainly in the UK market, and for me when I do consulting, often we have these rules that may have been there for a good reason that make working with interpreters more awkward than it needs to be. So if a client says, can I get an all-in price? You give them a figure, and if they ask how you come to it, you then give them the breakdown. If a client says, I need an all-in price, and you start quoting, it's this plus this times this. No, just give them the figure. Tell them how much the invoice is going to be. And I think it's where RSI has helped in the majority of cases. It has made pricing models simpler. We could argue that it's reduced prices, and it may well have done, but from my personal point of view as a consultant, interpreting was overdue a price model overhaul anyway to make working with interpreters more user-friendly for buyers. So this is just my thing as a consultant. If someone asks you for a price for your interpreting and they're wanting the all-in price, give them one number. That's all they're asking for. You can give them the breakdown later if you need to, but they need that final number. They don't want to be sitting doing the maths that you could have done and just given them a number. Sorry, rant over.
I don't think anybody disagrees here.
No, I agree. And for me, that was part of the point. You just said your rate, and it shouldn't matter where you work. How much you get out of it in the end is your problem then. You just, of course, you're coming in as competition in the market, but just by being there, but you're not lowering rates is my point in that.
So yeah, and that was the UK episode, believe it or not.
But that is not at all what we talked about in the UK episode. But it was still a really good episode. With my dear friend Kirsty. It was a really good episode.
And that's given us a wonderful insight into how interpreters think.
Nice. That was a
That only
very good
came
segue.
later, though.
That was March, believe it or not.
Oh, that is very true. Oh, my God. Okay, that is definitely a contender for segue.
That was my last episode before I went on paternity leave. And that was Killian Sieber.
That was the last one I missed before coming back from maternity leave.
Yeah.
In time.
Yeah.
Passing of the torch.
That was one where, if I remember correctly, it was Alex T. Alex and me interviewing Killian, and Alex Gansmeyer going, kind of just taking it all in for a lot of the episode.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I missed it, which is probably the
I mean,
reason it's one of the best episodes of the year, I think, or maybe even...
Yeah, it definitely
Alex G
has
and
like some
JD.
of the highest numbers, for sure.
We've had a really research heavy year, and yet we've had a pretty good year for downloads, so that says that everyone loves research. QED.
Correlation does not equal causation.
Well done, Alex.
Trust me, in interpreting studies, even a correlation is enough to get you celebrated.
That is very true. Yeah, I feel that. But it was a really good episode. And I mean, Killian, he's always a good time around to have around. But I think the episode, it was basically just like Battle of the Titans, just like you and him. And I was just very much in the background, just giggling every now and again and saying, oh, I love it.
Twiddling your thumbs.
Just admiring what's going on.
Yeah, I was like, oh my God, what is this even?
Yeah.
What language are they speaking?
That sounds like that sounds like what I like to call a complinsult. It's like a compliment wrapped in an insult.
Not too far off. But clearly it was very accessible because it's one of the best episodes we've had in terms of download numbers. So,
I was joking with someone recently about there should be a competition for the world's best doubtful compliments.
Oh, that would be fun. I would love that.
Yes. I was once told, I thought you're much more interesting than I thought you would be.
Wow. Talk about a complinsult.
Backhanded compliment. Masterclass.
Yeah.
That's what I like to call a doubtful compliment. So I missed the next 4 episodes, I think.
Oh, the next one, the April one,
that
was
was a
actually
fun
one of
one.
my favorite ones. That was really cool.
I wasn't even there, but it was
that
a fun one. Yeah. Again,
I mean, I guess none of us
correlation,
were there,
causation, I don't know.
Yeah, this was the I Can Show You the World of Interpreting, where we had people from, oh God,
Everywhere, basically.
The whole
tons of countries. Yeah, the whole world, just sending us
Everywhere.
videos, sending us clips from every single country, and just reporting a bit on their individual interpreting markets, on how COVID's been. And I thought that was super fascinating because we all know a lot about the markets that we dabble in. Obviously our home market, and then kind of the markets that we work with. But I don't know. Vietnam, Japan, African countries, South American countries. I have no idea about that. That was super interesting. I really liked that a lot. That was really cool. And thank you very much again to all the people who sent some stuff in.
Plus, we did some awesome segues.
And we had some awesome segues.
Also, just on this episode, I'm wondering how many people got the movie reference in the title. I don't know.
I can show you.
Yeah, I didn't get a lot of feedback on
I
that
didn't
one.
get that.
Really?
I'm glad we talked about it.
I get that reference
Maybe we
because
did.
I was all doe-eyed when that came out and wanting to sing that to
Yes.
someone.
I still don't
Yeah.
get it.
Because have you
It's the,
ever
it's
seen
the
the
theme
movie?
song from
Have you ever seen Aladdin?
the Aladdin
Yeah.
movie.
Aladdin.
It's called I Can Show You the World,
okay,
literally.
but when I watched Aladdin, I was a little kid, so I watched it in German.
In meiner Welt fängst du.
I never watched it in English, so I don't know.
Yeah, but then also the new Aladdin came out and they did it again. And
I
it was
didn't
really
watch that.
good.
The Will Smith one, yeah.
Yeah,
I don't
that
know
was
what-
really
what
good.
the
Go
song's
watch it.
called.
Yeah,
in
I will
German,
watch
though, I
it,
don't-
and then I will sing with you.
Yes, and then you'll be like, oh my God, the episode title is so clever. Thank you,
Brilliant.
Alex and Alex.
Who came up with that? Yeah.
New on Spotify, Troublesome Terps, the album.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, we
do a
should do a
karaoke,
Christmas
yeah.
album next year.
Ride a whole new world, a new
We're probably going to have to cut this.
Oh, yeah, that's a copyright strike waiting to happen.
But you can do like a couple of seconds.
I guess.
I think like as long as it's under 3 seconds, it doesn't copyright infringe. Anyways,
we don't
that's a good. It's good. Go watch the movie and then sing the song when you listen to our episode.
Exactly.
So
I'll check out the soundtrack on Apple Music, Spotify, whatever you use for listening
Yeah,
to.
wherever you listen to Troublesome Terps, you can probably also listen to the Aladdin soundtrack.
That's right. We're also on Spotify.
We should do a comedy like We All Sing, but it's a charity project, so the more people donate, the less of our singing they actually have to hear.
Well, but then it's kind of one of those things where people donate for us to stop singing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, we don't want that.
That's
We could do an
point.
improv
Yeah.
thing.
People stop us to stop, pay us to stop doing improv.
Yeah, people, we must be stopped. Donate now.
Exactly. Speaking of singing, I think Kate Hamilton actually does a lot of singing and music in her work, and she was that.
That was one of
See what
my
I did there?
favorite episodes.
Yeah, she was our guest on the May. The May episode.
Yes.
Multilingual is normal.
That was
And we
awesome.
talked about the Babel babies, and there was lots of linguistics goodies
Yeah,
there for you.
totally
Sarah,
hitting
right?
my nerd spot.
and like language exposition in children, that kind of thing.
That was
was
fantastic.
She did sing.
Yeah.
Weren't they singing Norwegian kids songs?
All sorts of songs. All sorts of songs in different languages, and basically to surround kids with different languages from very early age, and to just more make it fun and normal to hear and kind of sing, I guess, other languages. And
Yeah.
I think that's a
And music is a great
beautiful
way
project.
to pick up a language. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
definitely.
That was fun.
And also, I just loved her energy.
Yeah.
She was cool. Yeah, Kate was
And it
cool.
was not her last appearance. A bit of foreshadowing.
It was
there.
not. Spoiler alert.
Do you know, I'm just glad to hear the word normal related to Troublesome Terps, because that's not something I hear a lot.
Not the first association you might have. Yeah, exactly.
Who wants to be normal, anyways?
Yeah,
Normal's
exactly.
overrated.
And then we have the episode that I was really sad to miss, and that was talk about the Clash of the Titans.
That was amazing.
Yes.
Graham Turner and Henry Liu talking about whether AI will take over. Can I nominate that we have a redo?
Didn't you even initiate that, JD?
I initiated that, and I had to miss it because coming back after baby was extra hard this time. I'm quite happy for a rematch, so long as it's a 3-way rematch, because one of the 4 of us wrote a book on that subject, and I can't remember which one of us that was.
Oh,
idea.
snap.
If you know, please send us an email.
No, if you know, buy the book. I have 5 kids, please buy the book.
Fair enough.
Link,
Oh, buy
link
3
in the show
books,
notes.
actually. Buy 3 of them. 3 books. And it wasn't really a collab because neither Graham nor Henry have a podcast. Although maybe they should. I don't know. Maybe they should have a podcast or a YouTube
Oh, yeah,
channel.
I feel like Henry would be good.
I totally got
You would be
schooled
great.
during that episode, especially by Graham.
Really?
Yeah, totally. We had I think we had a very good discussion of like, I think this, yes, but I think this, and back and forth. And it was really good. I learned a lot, and I like a good debate like that.
I probably got schooled too. I didn't notice.
It's schooled in the
Blissfully
best
unaware.
possible way. Like literally, I learned something that was awesome.
Just imagine that happening about once a month for 4 years, and you have my PhD. Because Graham was my senior PhD supervisor. But it means that when you get to your Viva and you have your 2 examiners, you're good.
Yeah,
know your
I
stuff.
can imagine
Easy.
that, to be honest.
It was the problem is when someone supervises your PhD, you start becoming like them, and I find myself citing Graham on a regular basis, and yeah,
I get that. I quote Renato all the time. He's my mentor.
Shout
critic.
outs. Shout outs galore.
For, as an
Mark's
editing my stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
and then there was interpreters became superheroes, and if we're gonna confront the growth of AI, we have to assemble.
Yeah.
Which is funny because it was also the
Another
second
movie
Avengers,
reference.
the first Avengers reference for
Yeah.
this year. Yes. But that was a cool episode, the one in July where we assembled the interpreters, where we had
Yeah, who did
3
we
big
assemble?
interpreters and networks. We
Yeah.
assembled a ton of people. So we assembled Louise Jarvis, we assembled Monica Ott, and we also assembled Sibelle van Haalbok,
Yes,
from the Congress token.
token.
And obviously Monika is from my network, Konferenzdolmetscher Deutschland. So Calliope, Konferenzdolmetscher Deutschland, and Congress token meets the Troublesome Terps, or met the Troublesome Terps. And we talked about why even bother doing interpreting networks? What's the benefit? What is it good for?
Yeah, exactly. Because we always do our research and preparation before every episode, but it was interesting for me to see how different they all were in the end, like how differently they're set up, and that was great to see.
And it was also cool because everybody had a different intent behind it. You know, like why did you do a network? Everybody had a different answer, and yeah.
And they all said they learned from each other, which is nice. If guests can also benefit from an episode, not just the hosts and the listeners.
You know, if only one person learned something, we've done our job here.
I already said I learned something, so we're done.
Okay, thanks, people. That's a wrap. Wrap it up for 21.
But 21, you're jumping ahead of yourself now. So it's just the dishwasher.
Fire alert! Because we're on fire.
Brace.
No, I think, though, one of the things that I have learned this year is that you're only as good as the colleagues who you trust. I've had projects that went really well this year, and I've had a project that did not go as well, and you suddenly realise that an awful lot of it comes down to who's in the team. And if you get the right people in the team, amazing things are possible. If there are issues within the team, it seems like little things become hard. And so although I'm not on a formal interpreting network, I now realise that having contact of interpreters who can deliver when you need them to deliver is incredibly valuable. And perhaps one of the most valuable things that interpreters have is their address book.
That is true.
The Rolodex.
I was just going to say the Rolodex.
Or a semi-organised Excel file, yes.
Yeah, no judgment there.
Well, see, I did a presentation. I've done it 3 times now in 3 different places, and if anyone wants me to do it again, I will do it on the importance of your support network as an interpreter. And so I mentioned that one thing that I find is irreplaceable is the colleague that you can turn to when you need someone to pull you out of a hole.
That's definitely
the person that you can trust, that I need someone who can deliver, the person who can be at the end of the phone. And also, I also say every time, you know how like at school, there might be someone that the teacher would never let you sit next to because you would get up to mischief?
Yeah.
I always make the point that as an adult, you need people that you really shouldn't sit next to in a room because something's about to go crazy. Yeah. And so we have a podcast. So that's why we're having a podcast.
So who's the teacher then? Don't answer that.
I think we all know.
Moving right along to the August episode, which was really just a quick summer update. But I have very distinct memories of that being a lot of fun to record because we had a long chat and then recorded a short little summer update, which we published as the August episode.
How long was it? Like 5 minutes? And I think it took us like almost an hour because we were chatting so much.
Yeah, 5 minutes and 58 seconds.
So well prepared.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's what we're known for.
It's all in the magic of the editing, right?
That's, exactly.
Thank you,
There's
Alex.
a whole side of Troublesome Terps that most people never need to hear.
That's a good thing, yeah.
The dark side.
The chemistry of this show comes from the fact that we actually enjoy chatting to each other. The difficulty for Alex editing this show comes from the fact that we all enjoy chatting with each other.
Fair. Very fair. Yeah.
Right. The number 65 was another researchy episode. I think this was also your idea, Jonathan, wasn't it? One of your favorite researchers.
One of my favourite researchers, a researcher who I learned a lot from, the only researcher who I voluntarily went on a 8-hour return train journey to go and see for an hour because she was presenting in Manchester. I did 4 hours there, train was delayed, 4 hours back, and yeah. She is one of my favourite researchers, and I think she did a really good job on the show. It was one of these very smooth recordings,
Derica, by the
I
way.
remember.
Yeah, I don't think we've mentioned the name
Ebru
yet.
Derica was a really smooth, controlled recording, from what I remember, and it was really, really good. It still got me thinking. I think I'm probably writing about something to do with that at the moment, because someone assumed that professional interpreting always looks the same, and I'm like, no. So, and no, what they assumed that interpreters always do exactly what the textbooks say we do.
The truth is we don't.
That's not true.
If you want to know more, listen to the full episode.
Listen to the full episode, then you'll see why. I almost don't need to read the paper if you write that episode. If you listen to that episode, you can't write an episode. And then we had, and we were all talking about this earlier, 3 of us have an early Christmas present which is rather deep and wide, and that is the wonderful book edited by Elizabeth Teselius and Michael Albon-Mikasa. What else could it be?
I'm still waiting for my copy.
We had our very first Troublesome Terps book club.
Yes.
That was a labor of love. A lot of
You could say that again, yeah.
a lot of sweat, a lot of tears.
Yeah.
Not evenly spread amongst the 4 Troublesome Terps. One of us spread a lot of tears, shed a lot of tears.
And yet you pulled through, Alex. Oh, sorry.
It's fine. Yeah, I don't think this comes as a surprise to anyone.
Academic publishing is not for the faint of heart.
It is not for the faint of heart.
It's not so fun.
Tell me about it.
But it's prestigious.
Yeah.
But Elizabeth and Michaela did a great job, of course.
They also did a great job. I mean, the book is pretty fantastic. I sent my mom a copy and she wanted to buy it, and then she saw the price tag and she was like, maybe you just take a picture of your name. And I was like, yeah, I can just do that.
Who was that, your mom?
But, yeah, my mom.
Okay.
She works at a bookstore, so I was like, yeah, maybe you'll get a discount. But I think it's a bit much for her to just have on her shelf. Given that I just co-wrote one of the chapters. But my mom likes it, so that's good.
Just pose with the book.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's a nice cover.
A framed picture. It is a very lovely cover. But what is it actually?
I don't know. I just got a nice comment from a friend who said, I just love the cover. He has nothing to do with interpreting, but he really enjoys the cover. So there you go.
That's good.
This is giving me flashbacks to book cover conversations. So I suddenly realised that I was an adult when I was writing my first book. And I was having an in-depth email conversation with production on what the cover should look like, and suddenly I felt like a grown-up. It's like, I have design opinions. A man who struggles to draw stickman.
Wait, this was for the first book?
My first book, which came out in 2016. The brief for both of my books was, you must not let the book look like an academic book.
Oh, the one with the fish jumping from Fishbowl
the one with the fish
Fishbowl.
jumping. That was, I think, design number 5, and I also requested changes. There was a long conversation. There were a lot of designs for that book. The second one was a lot easier. But yeah, so... Yeah, but also, I mean, we should talk about the episode a lot more, talking about the production process of a handbook. And look, this time I actually said handbook rather than encyclopedia. Yeah. Talking about the production process of a handbook is, I mean, it's incredible the amount of work that goes in. And like, it's almost like every word on the page needs checked and double checked, and every bit of layout needs checked and double checked. And if you have a diagram or a picture,
that's more checking. Yeah.
Yes, you need a cup of tea. You need a lot of cups of tea if you have diagrams. But it's just, that's what book production looks like. And I was really pleased. I saw an article recently that said book sales have gone up during the pandemic. So I was really pleased. Everyone wants physical books.
So what that means is go out and buy the books. Our books.
Yes.
Whichever book has our names attached to it.
Any book, really. Just buy any book.
Yeah, any book,
really.
Really.
Good book.
And if you're a publisher with a fat advance...
And get in touch with Jonathan.
The November episode... If I'm honest, I looked at the brief of the November episode and went, if this works, it will be incredible. But then I realised that we had the organisational skills of Alex and Alex behind it.
Aww.
And it went incredibly smoothly. And Sarah's insightful comments were brilliant. And... It was really lovely to have so many podcasts. There absolutely zero podcast rivalry.
Yeah,
it was really nice. I remember enjoying it. I don't remember making insightful comments, but it's very nice.
I remember you making insightful comments and asking important questions.
Yeah, I say so many things. I can only remember half of them.
Well, I mean, all of them are insightful.
That's right,
so,
yeah.
Truth be told, you do a lot more broadcasting than we do these days with Lindsay.
Yeah, that's also very true.
Yeah.
Yeah, my New Year's resolution is to resurrect my YouTube channel next year. I'm actually working on a project for it, which will come out sometime in the new year. So, yeah.
You've heard it here
But,
first.
you know, yeah, you heard, look on the Inside Interpreting around January, and on my website around January, it's going to be a multimedia project I'm currently working on.
You should check out live streaming as well, Jonathan. It's fun.
Only if I can live stream with a baby on
Yeah,
my
you can.
lap.
You can live stream from the booth.
That would get you in serious. I wonder if there's a regulation about live streaming from the booth. But yeah, so a couple of things that struck me about that episode. One, there was zero podcast rivalry, despite the fact we're all in the same. No one said this word yet. Space. We're all in the same interpreting space.
The interpreting
haven't really said that much this year.
The interpreting space.
It's like the metaverse, but specifically for interpreters.
It is the metaverse. Oh my god.
Finally, somebody talks about the metaverse. Finally.
I was thinking Star Trek. I was thinking like Deep Space Nine.
Did you hear? By the way, did you hear that Bill Gates said today or yesterday that in 3 years' time all meetings will be taking place in the metaverse? So we'll also obviously be interpreting in the metaverse. Is that what that means? So
Interesting.
what does that mean?
The
Discuss.
metaverse is the most overhyped stuff since machine interpreting. It is
Since 5G.
overhyped. It's probably going to look nothing like we
Since
imagine it.
Bitcoin. Like it's
No,
all
the
just.
metaverse has a use case. It's better than Bitcoin in that sense.
We're going to get so much email.
We
Yeah.
said Bitcoin, but that's going to give us a lot of traffic. Dogecoin. What is it? The crazy monkey yacht party? What was it?
2023 sees the launch of the Troublesome Terps coin.
23.
Crypto Terps.
Living in the
Trouble
past.
coin.
Crypto Terps.
Yeah, man. January 2022. If
Trouble
not, we've missed
Tala.
Oh, shoot.
You should have that
Mic drop.
trademarked very soon.
Very, very now.
Yeah.
The
Or
Trouble
get the
Tala.
domain at least. Trouble Tala.
At some point in the past couple of years, I had someone email me trying to convince me that all interpreting should be blockchain somehow.
Yeah, right.
I was like,
Well, our
How?
brain is a blockchain. Nobody knows how it works. It's a huge black box, and somehow
I feel like I can't criticize blockchain too much because I don't know enough about it to really
That's
have
not
an
a reason
informed
not to
opinion.
criticize.
I just
I
know
know
it has a
some
Merkle
stuff
tree.
about it, but certainly not enough to. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know it has a Merkle tree, and at every single conference that I interpreted about the blockchain, they always showed a picture of Angela Merkel. And then
Why?
sometimes she was a tree, sometimes she was holding a tree, sometimes she was in a tree, and then they were saying, and then it's about the Merkle tree, but I don't know what that actually means.
so can I just say, blockchain has a lot in common with hiring an interpreter. It's supposed to be a super useful process, but it costs far too much energy. There's my kind of philosophical mic
Deep.
drop.
That's
I'm
deep.
confused about that analogy.
And also, at some point, you need to prove that you've done some work.
Oh, well, yeah.
So yeah, but so one thing that I will say that I've learned this year is interpreting has had its debates, and we've had some Twitter discussions.
Feuds.
But on the other hand, that podcastival collab thing really taught me that when you get down to the bottom of it, the vast majority of interpreters are really nice people and really all want to help the profession. And a lot of us, I'm not a massive linguistics fan, but a lot of interpreters cross over into the linguistics world as well. And so it's really encouraging that a profession that is as old as interpreting, probably the world's second oldest profession, manages to adjust no matter what's happening.
Third oldest, maybe.
Wait.
There was prostitution. There was
Oh, shoot, wait.
hunter-gatherer, and then interpreter.
Hunter-gathering is
Sorry.
technically not a
That took way
profession
too
because
long.
it's
Well, if you
subsistence.
sell what you hunt
True.
or gather.
But then,
Oh my God, what is happening?
Yeah, I gather that's true.
Are we on the hunt for some insight here? Oh my God. People, it's been a year. What we're trying to say here, it's been a year. It's been a long year. It's been
Why do I feel like you said the same thing last year on the end of year episode?
We have nothing good to say
it's
anymore. We said it all.
I mean, it's the same year. What else are we going to say?
I feel like it has been
the same as 2020.
one exactly like long year.
Yeah.
It's been 2020 all over again,
2
just
years.
slightly different.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like when
Yes,
people
yes,
turn
yes.
30 and then for the rest of their life they're like 29 something. You know, like it's like a thing. You're like 30 would
Yeah.
be 29A, 31, 29B. Then,
I haven't
you know,
heard that one, yeah.
No, you don't know this one. This is what it's like. It's 2020B now. Or A, I guess. Yeah.
I've heard people say I'm 35 with 9 years experience or something like
Oh, that's also charming.
that. Yeah.
But so then basically, once we hit 2030, then we can actually say, okay, now we're moving on into the real 2021.
That's right.
Fair enough.
We just skip a decade.
I like
Who
that.
cares?
We just skip a decade. I mean, who cares?
I hope it's not going to take a decade.
Also, I heard on the radio that somebody was actually referring it to as the 20s. And I was like,
No.
I mean, I obviously know this is what we're living in. We're living in the 20s, but it seemed so glamorous. to
Like your
refer to
20s,
it as
right?
that.
I like it,
Like-
but I also wonder, does
like
it
the
insult
roaring
the real
20s?
20s, the original 20s?
That's what I'm
The real
thinking, you know, like
20s.
the
They were so
roaring
good,
20s,
yeah.
like cool fashion, good
We're
music.
the opposite of roaring 20s. We're like
We
the
are the
locked-in.
opposite of that. Yeah, we have not earned being called the 20s
We're like the
yet.
antidote
Not
to
yet.
that one.
Yeah.
Yes, something needs to happen.
We're not the roaring 20s. We're
We're
the
the
stable
boring
as much as
20s,
possible
yes.
20s.
Yeah, the boring 20s.
But yeah, thank you everyone for
Oh, are we still
listening to us
recording?
through this year. It has
Is
been,
this thing
it
on?
Has been, it has been a real pleasure to take you through this year, even though I've missed a portion of it as well. But I've noticed we got some feedback recently about someone who discovered the podcast for the first time this year. You know, it's actually great fun to be able to do something that the interpreting community obviously enjoys. And whatever project you do in life, you get to a point where you plateau and you think, is this thing still working? And then you get good feedback and you realise, yes, it is. So we're going to keep doing good stuff, I hope. We're going to keep doing good stuff. I think interpreting's been through a lot in the past 2 years, and it'd be good to talk about the future a bit more and to be positive. I've been amazed at people's optimism. We've all struggled this year, but you know, if we can make you laugh a bit and help you see the funny side of things, then we've done a good job.
Amen to that.
Amen.